Many who are employers will call to mind instances where the best employees have overlooked important points which could not have escaped their own observation as a proprietor. No man has a right to expect to succeed in life unless he understands his business, and nobody can understand his business thoroughly unless he learns it by personal application and experience. A man may be a manufacturer. He has got to learn that many details of his business personally. He will learn something every day, and he will find he will make mistakes nearly every day. And these very mistakes are helps to him in the way of experiences if he but heeds them. He will be like the Yankee tin peddler who, having been cheated as to quality in the purchase of his merchandise, said, "All right, there's a little information to be gained every day. I will never be cheated in that way again." Thus, a man buys his experience. It is the best kind if not purchased at too dear a rate. I hold that every man should like Cuvier. The French naturalist thoroughly know his business, so proficient was he in the study of natural history that you might bring to him the bone or even a section of a bone of an animal which he had never seen described, and reasoning from analogy he would be able to draw a picture of the object from which the bone had been taken. On one occasion, his students attempted to deceive him. They rolled one of their number in a cow's skin and put him under the professor's table as a new specimen. When the philosopher came into the room, some of the students asked him what animal it was. Suddenly the animal said, "I am the devil and I am going to eat you." It was but natural that Cuvier should desire to classify this creature, and examining it intently, he said, "Divided hoof, grim, and vorious." It cannot be done. He knew that an animal with a split hoof must live upon grass and grain or other kind of vegetation, and would not be inclined to eat flesh, dead or alive. So he considered himself perfectly safe. The possession of a perfect knowledge of your business is an absolute necessity in order to ensure success. Among the maxims of the elder Rothschild was one an apparent paradox. Be cautious and bold. This seems to be a contradiction in terms, but it is not, and there is great wisdom in the maxim. It is in fact a condensed statement of what I have already said. It is to say, you must exercise your caution in laying your plans, but be bold in carrying them out. A man who is all caution will never dare to take hold and be successful, and a man who is all boldness is merely reckless and must eventually fail. A man may go on change and make $50,000 or $100,000 in speculating in stocks at a single operation. But if he has simple boldness without caution, it is mere chance, and what he gains today, he will lose tomorrow. You must have both the caution and the boldness to ensure success. The Rothschild have another maxim. Never have anything to do with an unlucky man or place. That is to say, never have anything to do with a man or place which never succeeds, because although a man may appear to be honest and intelligent, yet if he tries this or that thing and always fails, it is on account of some fault or infirmity that you may not be able to discover, but nevertheless must exist. There is no such thing in the world as luck. There never was a man who could go out in the morning and find a purse full of gold in the street today and another tomorrow, and so on. Day after day, he may do so once in his life, but so far as mere luck is concerned, he is as liable to lose it as to find it. Like causes produce like effects. If a man adopts the proper methods to be successful, luck will not prevent him. If he does not succeed, there are reasons for it, although perhaps he may not be able to see them. Use the best tools in. Men engaging employees should be careful to get the best. Understand, you cannot have two good tools to work with, and there is no tool you should be so particular about as the living tools. If you get a good one, it is better to keep him than keep changing. He learns something every day and you are benefited by the experience he acquires. He is worth more to you this year than last, and he is the last man to part with. Provided his habits are good and he continues faithful. If as he gets more valuable, he demands an exorbitant increase of salary on the supposition that you can't do without him. Let him go whenever I have such an employee. I always discharge him first to convince him that his place may be supplied, and second because he is good for nothing if he thinks he is invaluable and cannot be spared. But I would keep him if possible in order to profit from the result of his experience. An important element in an employee is the brain. You can see the bills up. Hands wanted, but hands are not worth a great deal without heads. Mr. Beecher illustrates this in this wise. An employee offers his services by saying, "I have a pair of hands and one of my fingers thinks that is very good," says the employer. Another man comes along and says he has two fingers that think, "Ha, that is better," but a third calls in and says that all his fingers and thumbs think that is better still. Finally another steps in and says, "I have a brain that thinks I think all over. I am a thinking as well as a working man." "You are the man I want," says the delighted employer. Those men who have brains and experience are therefore the most valuable and not to be readily parted with. It is better for them as well as yourself to keep them at reasonable advances of their salaries from time to time. Don't get above your business. Young men, after they get through their business training or apprenticeship, instead of pursuing their avocation and rising in their business, will often lie about doing nothing. They say, I have learned my business, but I am not going to be a hiring. What is the object of learning my trade or profession? Unless I establish myself. Have you capital? Start with no, but I am going to have it. How are you going to get it? I will tell you confidentially. I have a wealthy old aunt and she will die pretty soon. But if she does not, I expect to find some rich old man who will lend me a few $1,000 to give me a start. If I only get the money to start with, I will do well. There is no greater mistake than when a young man believes he will succeed with borrowed money. Why? Because every man's experience coincides with that of Mr. Astor, who said it was more difficult for him to accumulate his first $1,000 and all the succeeding millions that made up his colossal fortune. Money is good for nothing unless you know the value of it by experience. Give a boy $20,000 and put him in business, and the chances are that he will lose every dollar of it before he is a year older. Like buying a ticket in the lottery, hand drawing a prize. It is easy come, easy go. He does not know the value of it. Nothing is worth anything unless it costs effort without some denial and economy, patience and perseverance, and commencing with capital which you have not earned. You are not sure to succeed in accumulating. Young men, instead of waiting for dead men's shoes, should be up and doing, for there is no class of persons who are so unaccommodating in regard to dying as these rich old people, and it is fortunate for the expectant heirs that it is so. 9 out of 10 of the rich men of our country today started out in life as poor boys with determined wills, industry, perseverance, economy, and good habits. They went on, gradually made their own money and saved it, and this is the best way to acquire a fortune. Stephen Girard started life as a poor cabin boy and died worth $9 million. Stuart was a poor Irish boy at the time of his death. He paid taxes on $1.5 million of income per year. John Jacob Faster was a poor farmer boy and died worth 20 millions. Cornelius Vanderbilt began life rowing a boat from Staten Island to New York. Now he presented our government with a steamship worth $1 million and died worth 90 millions. There is no royal road to learning, says the proverb. And I may say it is equally true. There is no royal road to wealth. But I think there is a royal road to both. The road to learning is a royal one. The road that enables the student to expand his intellect and add every day to his stock of knowledge until, in the pleasant process of intellectual growth, he is able to solve the most profound problems, to count the stars, to analyze every atom of the globe, and to measure the firmament. This is a regal highway, and it is the only road worth traveling. So in regard to wealth, go on in confidence. Study the rules, and above all things study human nature, for the proper study of mankind is man, and you will find that while expanding the intellects and the muscles, your enlarged experience will enable you every day to accumulate more and more principle, which will increase itself by interest and otherwise until you arrive at a state of independence. You will find as a general thing that the poor boys get rich and the rich boys get poor. Instance: a rich man at his decease leaves the largest estate to his family. His eldest son, so have helped him earn his fortune. Nobody experienced the value of money, and they take their inheritance and add to it. The separate portions of the young children are placed at interest, and the little fellows are patted on the head and told a dozen times a day, you are rich. You will never have to work. You can always have whatever you wish for. You were born with a golden spoon in your mouth. The young heir soon finds out what that means. He has the finest dresses and playthings. He is crammed with sugar candies and almost killed with kindness. And he passes from school to school, petted and flattered. He becomes arrogant and self-conceited. Abuses his teachers and carries everything with a high hand. He knows nothing of the real value of money, having never earned any. But he knows all about the golden spoon business at college. He invites his poor fellow students to his room where he wines and dines them. He is cajoled and caressed and called a glorious good fellow because he is so lavish of his money. He gives his game suppers, drives his fast horses, invites his chums to fetes and parties, determined to have lots of good times. He spends the night in frolics and debauchery and leads off his companions with the familiar song, "We won't go home till morning." He gets them to join him in pulling down signs, taking gates from their hinges and throwing them into backyards and horse ponds. If the police arrest them, he knocks them down, is taken to the lock-up and joyfully foots the bills. "Ah, my boys," he cries, "what is the use of being rich if you can't enjoy yourself?" He might more truly say, if you can't make a fool of yourself, but he is fast, hates slow things and don't see it. Young men loaded down with other people's money are almost sure to lose all they inherit, and they acquire all sorts of bad habits, which in the majority of cases ruin them in health, purse, and character. In this country, one generation follows another, and the poor of today are rich in the next generation, who are the third. Their experience leads them on, and they become rich and leave vast riches to their young children. These children, having been reared in luxury, are inexperienced and get poor, and after long experience senator generation comes on and gathers up the riches again in turn, and thus history repeats itself, and happy is he who by listening to the experience of others avoids the rocks and shoals on which so many have been wrecked. Josh Billings says necessity beget invention, invention beget convenience. Convenience beget pleasure. Pleasure beget luxury, luxury beget riot and disease. But between them beget poverty, and poverty beget necessity again in England. In England the business makes the man. If a man in that country is a mechanic or working man, he is not recognized as a gentleman. On the occasion of my first appearance before Queen Victoria, the Duke of Wellington asked me what sphere in life General Tom Thumb's parents were in. His father is a carpenter, I replied. Oh, I heard he was a gentleman, was the response of His Grace in this republican country. The man makes the business no matter whether he is a blacksmith, a shoemaker, a farmer, banker or lawyer. So long as his business is legitimate, he may be a gentleman. So any legitimate business is a double blessing. It helps the man engage in it and also helps others. The farmer supports his own family, but he also benefits the merchants or mechanic who needs the products of his farm. The tailor not only makes a living by his trade, but he also benefits the farmer, the clergyman and others who cannot make their own clothing. But all these classes of men may be gentlemen. The great ambition should be to excel all others engaged in the same occupation. The college students who was about graduating said to an old lawyer, "I have not yet decided which profession I will follow." "Is your profession full?" "The basement is much crowded, but there is plenty of room upstairs," was the witty and truthful reply. No profession, trade or calling is overcrowded in the upper story. Whether you find the most honest and intelligent merchants or banker, or the best lawyer, the best doctor, the best clergyman, the best shoemaker, carpenter or anything else, that man is most sought for and is always enough to do as a nation. Americans are too superficial. They are striving to get rich quickly and do not generally do their business as substantially and thoroughly as they should. But whoever excels all others in his own line, if his habits are good and his integrity undoubted, cannot fail to secure abundant patronage and the wealth that naturally follows. Let your motto then always be Excelsior, for by living up to it, there is no such word as fail. Learn something useful. Every man should make his son or daughter learn some trade or profession, so that in these days of changing fortunes, of being rich today and poor tomorrow, they may have something tangible to fall back upon. This provision might save many persons from misery, who by some unexpected turn of fortune have lost all their means. But hope predominate, but be not too visionary. Many persons are always kept poor because they are too visionary. Every project looks to them like certain success, and therefore they keep changing from one business to another. Always in hot water, always under the hero.